First, prepare the necessary equipment for knife sharpening. Fully submerge your whetstones in the container of water and soak until bubbles stop floating to the surface. This indicates the stones have fully absorbed the water and are ready for use. Begin sharpening each side, one after the other. To sharpen, grip the handle of the knife with your middle, ring, and little finger using your dominant hand. Place your index finger along the spine of the knife and your thumb on the heel near the base of the blade. By supporting these 3 points, the handle, the spine, and the heel, you can sharpen the knife at a stable angle. Secure the medium whetstone on the sharpening base. With the knife's edge facing towards you, place the knife at an approximately 45-degree angle relative to the whetstone. Lift the spine of the knife slightly and tilt it so that the angle between the edge of the whetstone is approximately 15 degrees. Be mindful to maintain this angle throughout the entire sharpening process. Align the index and middle fingers of your non-dominant hand and lightly place them near the edge of the knife. Using a push and pull method, move the knife back and forth from the base of the whetstone to the top. Repeat this motion evenly across the edge of the blade until the entire side is sharpened. The key is to sharpen without applying too much pressure while keeping the blade angle consistent. Using the full length of the whetstone with long strokes makes the sharpening process more efficient. As you sharpen the blade, a black sharpening slurry will form on the stone. This is normal, and you can continue sharpening without removing the slurry. If the whetstone begins to dry out, add small amounts of water to the surface while you sharpen. Gradually shift your index and middle fingers along the blade and carefully sharpen from near the tip towards the heel. Once you have finished sharpening up to the heel, you can move on to the tip. Since the tip of the blade is thinner, sharpen it with the handle slightly raised to maintain the proper angle. After sharpening one side, check for a burr. A burr refers to the metal that has been scraped off and bent over to the opposite side. Carefully touch the blade with your finger. If you feel a slight catch, about the thickness of a single hair, you're good to go. Sharpen the opposite side using the same method as before, with the edge facing away from you. When sharpening the heel of the opposite side, hold the blade at a right angle to the whetstone so that the handle doesn't get in the way. Once the entire opposite side is sharpened, check for a burr on the blade, just as before. Rinse the knife lightly under water to wash away the sharpening slurry, then pat dry. Place newspaper or a stiff cloth on your work surface, then gently slide the blade horizontally across it to remove the burr. Repeat this for the opposite side as well. Avoid using soft cloths as the fibers may catch and tear. Always use a stiff cloth when removing the burr. Next, you can set up the finishing whetstone on the sharpening base. Same as with the medium grit whetstone, sharpen one side at a time. Remember to use lighter pressure than with the medium grit stone, moving the blade smoothly across the stone. Since the burr from the finishing whetstone is finer and harder to feel with your finger, aim to make 15 back and forth strokes in each area to ensure the entire blade is sharpened. Once both sides are sharpened, remove the burr same as before. Now that your knife is sharpened, perform a test cut using newspaper, flyers, or other similar materials. Check the sharpness from the tip to the heel of the blade. If it cuts smoothly with no resistance, the blade is properly sharpened. If you feel any rough spots or resistance, resharpen those areas only. When sharpening a knife, the part of the blade that makes the most contact will wear down the sharpening stone, causing the surface to become concave. If you continue using the stone in this condition, the edge of your blade will lose its shape. Therefore, it is important to perform maintenance to flatten the whetstone's surface and prepare it for the next use. Lightly rinse the whetstone with water to wash away the slurry. Use a pencil to draw lines across the entire surface of the whetstone. Then use your flattening stone that has been soaked in water, grind the surface until no more lines remain. Once the marks are gone, rinse the whetstone with water to finish.